And now it's time to bring you update regarding maybe the biggest story, or one of the biggest stories in the country right now. Police in Osun State have confirmed the arrest of Prince Adeniyi Adeyemi, the embattled alleged Director General of the controversial and maybe non-existent presidential agency PFIPC. Now, this follows a bench warrant issued by the Federal High Court in Nigeria.
Adeyemi, accused of forgery and impersonation, was picked up by the intelligence response team in Osun. He had previously denied hiding from authorities, claiming threats to his life. Today, we break down the legal, political, and ethical angles of a scandal.
What's your name?
I've mentioned it, sir. Mention it first.
They asked you.
What is your name? I've answered you.
What is your name?
I've said.
Has written an open letter to the president saying that he fears for his life. Someone has to be alive before justice is heard in this case. And if he's not alive, so I cannot reach my client. I've not seen him for over a month. It's sad, you know, but that is the reality of the situation. So a bench warrant has been issued against him. The matter has been adjourned to 30th September. We can only wait and see how the whole matter unfolds. Yes. My client has said it over and over and over again that he is available and willing to come out, but he needs to be sure that he's safe and he will not be in harm's way. He has said that over and over again, so I wouldn't know. That's what is on the media spaces that I have seen. The same way you are saying for media space is the same way I'm also saying his feedback that he fears for his life. I have not had access to him.
Joining us for this conversation are two legal practitioners, Anthony Hilebo and Towo Oserujowa, who joins us, Oseruwaja, I beg your pardon, who joins us all the way from the United Kingdom. This conversation is one I know that we're going to have a swell time discussing. But first of all, welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. And good morning to Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me too.
Very good. Very good. All right. So it started off like it's fake, it's not real until we started seeing receipts. And these receipts are in videos, in footage, even in press conference held by the embattled DG. Not just that, the biggest one of them all, a budget that belongs to a sovereign state, eventually carried this same fictitious agency and its budget for the year. So realistically, if we may ask, how possible is it for a fictitious agency to operate openly, secure an office space at the Federal Secretariat, and even appear in the federal budget of a country like Nigeria? I'm going to start with you first, Etor, as we look into this scenario.
Good morning. I think you corrected the impression, you corrected the statement I would have that has been in the public space using the word fake. I think the best word we would have used is controversial. Yeah. And why we look at it, I listened to a serving senator. I think on your program yesterday, and when I listened to him when he was talking about the power of the president to create an agency by executive order, that gives me a broader perspective of what we are having now in Nigeria, talking about the controversial council. And if a serving senator can disregard Section 4, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and can also disregard Section 44, Section 80 to 84 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that gives the National Assembly the power to establish a council, of this nature that assess public funds. It can be initiated by the president through a bill. So you should understand where we are in. Then looking at it holistically, you discover that the first question I asked myself when I saw this development yesterday and when this issue came out is, what are the EFCC doing? When the issue first came to the attention of the Chief of Staff and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, why approach the police? Why not approach the EFCC? The ICPC is also empowered by the virtue of the charge I've seen, or the virtue of the offense they are charging him for. Do you understand? Why not approach the ICPC? Why not approach the EFCC that have the requisite skills to investigate this matter entirely. Yes, the guy has committed an offense because he has openly stated that he offered a bribe of 400 million naira. Bribery is an offense in Nigeria. Nigeria should look at it from that perspective, that he ought to face the law. Now, the broader perspective to this issue is, how did this thing go through the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation? How does this man operate all through this while? The 300 staff they are talking about, including his personal assistant, a senior personal assistant, how were their salary being paid? Who authorized their salary? Who employed them? Who issued the letter of employment? Do you understand? Other members of the body, how did they come to be? So these are issues that need to be looked at. Then the issue of the budget again is the icing of the cake. How did he get to the budget? Do you understand? And who compiled the budget? Under which ministry? Because if it's an agency or a council, it may be a sub-arm of a particular ministry. Who was he reporting to directly? Is it the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? And who presented the budget? Who is the oversight? Who are the members of the House of Reps and the Senate that undergo oversight function of that thing? Then these are questions that need to be asked. So police rushing up and down, effecting arrest, already framing charge, and all those stuff. For me, I don't want to dive into the content of the charge for the purpose of allowing lawyers who are engaged to look at it holistically. But one thing I also want to point out is that they should look at section 251 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, pari passu the law upon which he was being charged before the Federal High Court, to see if jurisdiction lies in the Federal High Court. So it's a very complex issue, and the way we look at it holistically will determine the outcome and what the integrity we can hold our public office holder accountable about.
All right, thank you very much, Toll, for that explanation. Very dicey situation. They're bound to bring in Anthony into the conversation and get your thoughts regarding this as well. Especially, I mean, we've seen an arrest. It was a bit, if you can help us clarify the necessity of this arrest or otherwise, especially because we heard he was scheduled to be in court on the 27th day of July. So why was this really necessary? What was the process leading up onto this arrest? So speak to us about the legality or otherwise of that.
Well, I think, first of all, the speed at which he was arrested. I don't know if the police had processed the arrest warrant, because when you have an arrest, you have to go to the court and get the warrant itself to be able to act on it. It's not just merely on the pronouncement. My learned colleague has dwelt on several legal issues around this matter, but I'd like to take a different approach to it. Very recently, we've heard of several misnomers within our budgeting and constitutional frameworks. You see, for instance, the Almanjeri Commission doing projects in Ogun or your road projects in Ogun or your state. You hear of colleges of education tarring roads in different. So this particular scenario seems to present a recurring decimal in our country's operational model. This particular ministry was said to have been created not even within the context of this administration, during the Buhari administration. So it tells you that there's a cartel or an organization that is much bigger than we can see right now operating. And I want to believe that this is not just the only illegal operation going on. So there's a broader context that I think that the presidency should have taken a step back and said, you know what, let's look at our budgets, right? And even when you want to look at the budgets, the 2024, 2025, 2026 budget, as we currently have, are running concurrently. So there's a mess within even the budget context, right? So that's one problem on its own. But the government itself has been riddled with several scandals arising from its spending, its operation of the law, and several other things. So it needs to, at this point, take a step back, look at the holistic nature of its financial expression, the Office of the Accountant General, the Office of the SGF, and the presidency itself, because this particular ministry, my brother was trying to say, trying to situate it. This particular ministry is situated under the presidency. And the presidency has an entire ministry run by a permanent secretary. Now, that's, I think, is a place to start, to try to weed out or even investigate and see where this rot or how far it goes. Because it doesn't just stop at just one. I mean, this came out because perhaps there was an issue with the sharing formula, that he came out and said, look, they've been asking me for more money and I couldn't give more money. They disagreed with the sharing formula, and that's why it came to the public knowledge. I had someone talking to me and saying, you know what? With what I'm seeing now, I should have been back in Abuja. I'm sure I would have gotten one of these. I'll cooperate now, I'll give them what they want. What is 400 million? If I have 1.5 billion, I'll still have about 1.1 billion to do what I want to do. If my salaries will be more than. So it's encouraging more fraud in the system. It's saying that there are leakages. And, you know, the international disgrace, the level of, I've seen this in several media fronts, that a whole ministry, a whole parastatal was created fraudulently and monies appropriated to it. I mean, we're not even in the appropriation. Our Appropriation Act has been badly abused. 2024, 2025, 2026 are running concurrently. How is that? Is that not even an aberration in itself?
That's an issue in itself. I'd like to go back to Tor. Thank you very much, Anthony, for your submission. Tor, Anthony raised lots of issues bordering on our reputation as a country, the integrity, and of course, the entire presidency, and also the question that is there still many things that are inside that budget that we are not aware of, and if this the culture of this level of impunity, and also, the collaboration that might be going on at the highest level, this could be a bigger racket. Now that the attention of Mr. President has been drawn to this scandal and is given the marching order to ICPC, yes, to investigate this and unravel everything within 30 days, what are your expectations? Because people are saying that you can't be a judge and jury in your own case, and that the man in the eye of the storm, Mr. Femi Gbajabiamila, has not stepped aside from his appointment, and it might be a hindrance to do a thorough investigation if he's still in that position. What's your take?
My take is that the outcome of that investigation has been made clear yesterday. That is just the simple fact of it. Because while police are prosecuting the man for an issue that have been assigned to another agency to investigate, you should understand what it means. A bench warrant has been issued, and I expected that when the president made such an order, what is right for a fair process. A fair process was that immediately the president made such an order, which is within the right of the office of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Police ought to have handed over every of those files or anything regarding this particular issue to the ICPC. But that is not the case. Then you should also be aware that for Femi Gbajabiamila, you know, there have been a lot of issues regarding the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. I think that office became more popular or more prone to issues from the time of Buhari. And now Tinubu use it to the climax now. And we pray that the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will not appoint somebody that will take it to the moon then. Because I think the former deputy governor of Edo State, who became the chief of staff to Jonathan, we never heard such a scandal. So outside the office of Gbajabiamila, and I've stated it clearly without recourse or remorse, and I'm not going to withdraw it, that office has no statutory power to interfere with the external affair of the country. and I will state it, is just like a person. The office of the secretary the office of the chief of staff is just like a personal secretary to the president that deals with his routine, but not to interfere with the running of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But be that as it may, aside him, what about the office of the office of the secretary to the government of the Federation? That office needs to be probed. Then what about the Senate? The office needs to be probed. Even the deputy speaker, those principal officers of institutions the man had contact with, they ought to have stepped down. So if we're only Benjamin and Miller, we're also being fair. We are also being unfair to one part. His name was mentioned, yes, but to what extent? Look at the EFCC for crying out loud. One of the highlights intelligence gathering investigating agency. I had contact with the chairman. So what are we saying? The man had contact with the deputy Senate president. The man had contact with the deputy speaker of the House of Reps. So all these are areas that need to be looked at holistically. So for Gbajamila, yes, as a matter of fact, I was expecting that he would have resigned, or the president would have asked him to step aside, sacked him for outrightly, because when it comes to issue of appointment, it's not within the purview of his office. Therefore, the office of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, I believe, if it is in the UK, which my colleague will confirm, if it is in the UK, so many people would have resigned. So many people would have resigned. What made Keir Starmer, which is the outgoing Prime Minister of UK, to resign is not up to this scandal we are having now in Nigeria. It's not up to the scandal we are having, but everything goes. So if you're asking for the outcome, you ask yourself that a matter that is being investigated by ICPC, and one of the party or one of the person that ought to be investigated is already prosecuted. As a matter of fact, a bench warrant was issued from omnipotent and omniscience Nigeria police. He was arrested, maltreated because he was downgraded. His dignity was. Why will you ask somebody is a suspect to sit on the floor? You could see how demoralized the man was. Do you understand? So after going all through this, then they will not give him ICPC. So what will ICPC investigate over the issue again? Remember, the matter has been adjourned to 30th of September. So by virtue of that, which as a legal practitioner that is conversant with the Nigerian system, obviously will be in custody within those periods. And you know how traumatized that could be. Look at what is in the public domain. If somebody can be asked to sit on a bare floor, asking questions in a downgrading manner. So imagine within those periods if he will not be demoralized. But for me, I believe that the process itself, the foundation is already faulty. So it will be among the whitewash.
All right, I just want to follow up so very quickly. Adeyemi was supposed to be in court yesterday in Abuja, and he was away from court. Does it count as a reason to be away from court that there were threats to his life? Is that an excuse for him to miss his court appearance? Legally, can that excuse stand?
When it comes to issue of threats of life, do you understand? And if you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, do you understand? It's left for everybody to protect himself from every harm. And we all agree. We all agree on this. I think I'm not saying we all agree. Within information in the public domain, you know, one of the individual he identified as the proxy to the secretary to the government, as the proxy to the chief of staff. Do you understand? As the proxy to the chief of staff was mysteriously, from what we heard, was mysteriously died. So that alone can trigger anybody within that circle of scandal to be conscious of every public domain that would have happened. Then two, for the court to have issued a bench warrant, yes, the court is right. But looking at the circumstances, you know the court is blind to the society. What did the lawyer canvass before the court to say, okay, for that bench warrant to be issued? The court can exercise discretion to say, okay, for this reason, I'm giving you one more chance to appear. So for all intent and purpose, when issue of threat to life is already in, as alleged by him, I believe the court would have exercised a discretion better. And I will tell you, as a matter of fact, with that video alone you've seen, with that video alone you've seen, where he's being questioned by police, asking him to sit on the floor, downgrading, is a downgrading treatment himself. That can cause a mental, and at the same time, if we don't know his medical condition, with the extent in which this issue is going and the perception of Nigeria as to the process not being followed, it can trigger any medical condition that would have affected his life. It's only a living person that can stand trial. So it is excusable if somebody believes that his life is in danger. And this is not the first time he's saying it. He has said it even before the court case. Okay, let me go back to Anthony here. I mean, there's so many questions to ask regarding this. First of all, from the legal perspective, is it right I think it's a strong PR push. Is it right for the embattled DG and also his agency to be tagged fake from a legal perspective? Because there's no proof in court and the investigation is still ongoing. That's one question. Secondly, is it also right for Femi Gbajabiamila to sue? He was looking at suing for 10 billion naira. Is that right? Yeah. I mean, shouldn't he have waited, or shouldn't he wait until the process is done? What we see here is like there's a sudden rush here and there to quickly just nail and end this story. That's what we perceive. But what's your take on that, Anthony?
Well, for me, first of all, there's a bigger issue and bigger question. Where you have a president who violates the Constitution, and I'll go back to the only major contract this president has awarded to high tech, which we find out that his son has a stake in it. The contract did not pass through tenders. We're looking at the environmental impact assessment of it. The sheer volume of that contract leads one to ask questions. And then looking at following the Appropriation Act, which says year on year, the country shall appropriate, or the government shall send appropriation to the National Assembly. It shall review, and it shall pass an Appropriation Act which shall be followed and retired before another Appropriation Act. But we have 3 Appropriation Acts running concurrently. So if we want to start to talk about illegality, we have to start from the top, which has set the ball for these sort of things to happen. Now, I have not seen a concise and genuine effort by the government to say we are going to fight corruption as a government, because the government itself leads the way with corrupt practices. Why, for instance, is the FCT taking off the TSA? Why? The TSA was introduced in 2015 to harmonize government spending in line with the Constitution, which says the government shall appropriate funds and spend funds from a single account. The FCT is not separate from government. So all sorts of corruption are being allowed by this government.
But the president said why they removed the FCT from the TSA was to speed up engagements and processes.
Listen, the processes are put there for a reason. And let me say something. The president himself has precluded whatever investigation is going on, because the president says, and he with his own mouth, his own words, said, I trust the chief of staff. The buck stops at my table. How can a president make that kind of statement when your country is being riddled with all sorts of corruption? Let's not even talk about Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer was leader. Let's talk about the leader of the Reform Party. For his own personal engagements, people who were employing him to speak and paying him.
Nigel Farage.
A scandal emerged, and he has had to resign as an MP. That is how government works. But in Nigeria, people will not resign. A lot of people right now should be packing their bags. How is the chief of staff still in office? How can you investigate when that man is chief of staff? And like my learned colleague said on this, that the office of the chief of staff only became so powerful during the tenure of President Buhari. Abba Kyari became a lord unto himself, and now we've seen a second. You know how many instances, court cases, scenarios where The chief of staff is said to have intervened. The person that is chief of staff is chief of staff of the president, not chief of staff of the country. The person that runs government on behalf of the government is the Secretary General of the Federation, the SGF, not the chief of staff. But the chief of staff is more powerful than the SGF. Look, in the line of the country's hierarchy, the chief of staff is not in that hierarchy. The hierarchy is the president, the vice president, the senate president, the deputy senate president, the national assembly, and then you go to the SGF. The chief of staff is not in that hierarchy. So, but I personally do not have anything against the Femi Gbajabiamila. He's even risen to the office of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, so he's well known in the country. But this is a scandal too many for the country to bear. The reputation of our country has slid. Don't forget that we fought very hard to remove ourselves from the clout. Our Nigerian passport before used to be an anathema. A lot of work was done to take us from that stand where you would travel with the Nigerian passport and you'd be kept at an airport for more than 2 hours because Nigerian passport became an anathema. We had to do a lot of work. I am aware of the amount of work that was done in the bills that had to be pushed in the National Assembly for us to get off several watch lists. The Financial Action Task Force, FATF, the Edmond Server, we had to create, that was why they had to create a separate bureau to investigate financial flows in the country. So it's not been easy to get us off such corruption watch lists. But this now begins to put us back on those watch lists. You now begin to say because you have a green passport. Let me tell you something. You know that if you even are applying for it, my brother will confirm to you, you're applying for a job, even in the UK. The fact that you put that you have any experience in Nigeria begins to preclude you from getting those jobs. Are you aware of that? Look, the action some of us take in speaking out, it's not because we do not like the country. We love our country. We love the fact that we want to be able to hold our heads high. There are people who are doing very well. There are people who excel at what they are doing. But these acts, if they are not firmly uprooted from our system, if there's not a holistic investigation, holistic approach to show that government is sincere to out this sort of practices from our system, then the international community, we are talking about creating a false agency. We still have an 8 trillion expenditure that cannot be explained, raised by the IMF. We are just talking about one agency. We are talking about 15 trillion that was not budgeted for, that did not pass through due process. 15 trillion did not pass through due process. We have 8 trillion that is missing. We have the NMPC unremitted 200 trillion. My brother and sister in the studio, Nigeria has a very big problem. I don't know how we're going to solve this problem.
We still have a lot to unpack, Anthony, but let's go on a quick break, and when we return, I'll pose my next question to Tor. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Thank you so much for staying with us here. The conversation is still looking very, very dicey. Just in case you missed out, yesterday, the police arrested the embattled DG of the PFIPC. But we've been talking about this for a while. Let's, I mean, that's a video that you see on the screen there. But let's bring in our guest on our final question. We still have Towo, who joins us all the way from the UK. I'm also told that Anthony has to take a leave very quickly. So let's see how we can make it happen. Let's see if we can make it happen in 10 seconds. Very quickly. Very quickly. Towo, I'm told you have to leave, by the way. Anthony is still with us. So let's make it happen very quickly. Binga, you want to go first? Or should I go ahead? Yeah, okay, so let me go first. Let me ask Towo, as we speak now, what is the way forward if Nigerians need to know the end of this case, this story? What's the way forward? How is Nigeria's legal system supposed to aid in helping Nigerians know the finality of this case?
The legal system is, first of all, we should identify that an offense has been committed. Yes, the embattled chairman, Adeniyi, has committed an offense, as he has alleged offense, as he has openly admitted that he bribed a public officer, a public office holder to acquire that position. Yes, he has committed an offense. Then two, by virtue of the office of the president, he has power to direct agency that are empowered to investigate an alleged offense, to investigate such an issue. So having directed the ICPC to investigate the issue, what I expected that the ICPC or the police would have answered the file or the information they have regarding this particular issue based on the presidential directive to the ICPC for them to investigate. Then morally speaking, because we look at the issue of law and moral. Morally speaking, the person of the secretary, the person of the chief of staff to the government of the federation, having been figured out to have committed such an offense, because without morals, there won't be an accountability in the public office or in the public sector, would have resigned. And other officers that have, including the person who signed the letter requesting for office to be allocated to him, all those people would have resigned. Then for the ICPC to look at it holistically. But this is not what is going on now. So if the police are prosecuting him for something that ICPC is investigating, then you discover that the issue of double jeopardy will come out, because with the way things are going, let's assume he pleaded guilty to the offense, is convicted. What is the ICP investigating? Who are they investigating again? Is it him that is already in court for an offense relating to the directive of the president? Or are they investigating the secretary to the government of the federation that they will pass through his office to see the president? So these are certain issues that are very conflicting. So legally, what they ought to have done is an holistic investigation of an alleged offense and administrative review of how processes are followed in Nigeria when it comes to the establishment or when it comes to recognition of persons that have been entrusted with public office holding. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to keep following with this story. It's a developing story, of course. The matter is in the court, and let's see how this eventually turns out. But we thank you for joining us this morning, and we wish you a very wonderful rest of the morning in the UK. Okay. I know that Towa had to leave. I don't know if we still have our other guest.
Yeah, we still have Anthony. Anthony.
Yeah.
Maybe Anthony's.
I actually wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, yes, Towa has addressed core issues, but I'm going to identify a few culprits that I think need to be, not culprits, just a few actors that need to be more proactive. I'm very grateful to News Central for bringing up this topic. This is a topic of outreach. And the Nigerian population needs to be visibly outraged by what is going on now. I don't think it's enough. I don't think there's enough outreach by the Nigerian public. There is obviously much more to this. There is a silent issue that I would like, more important, the Nigerian police force to look at, which is the death of the middleman, the suspicious death of the middleman involved in this. There needs to be a thorough investigation into how this individual mysteriously died in the said Kachi Hotel in Utako. That is another issue that we seem to have just glossed over.
And the hotel has been demolished as we speak, yes. So it further complicates the issue.
So we have someone dying, and the evidence that should have come into question, which is the hotel itself, which should have been investigated, have been demolished. So there's more to this than meets the eye. So it's not just saying, you know, when you see a problem, I want to take a holistic approach to such issues. What is the media doing to keep it alive? News Central is bringing this as a topical issue on the morning show. Very good. What have Nigerians done about it? There should be a call that nobody's supposed to sit down and say, no, we cannot allow this to go. Mr. President, that statement you made that the chief of staff, you covered the chief of staff, that's a wrong statement. In this sort of instance, Mr. President should take the stand of the country and say, you know what, whoever is involved in this, I want a holistic investigation. I want to also reappraise all parastatals everything that is budgeted for, because we have so many scandals coming out of the Nigerian budgets today. And it leads to wonder what exactly those who are in the National Assembly are doing. Like my brother who just left said, the function of the National Assembly is to pass budgets and oversight the implementation of such budgets. So have they done their jobs? These are the sort of accountability Nigerians need to demand for. Because if today you do not have roads, it is because the money that was meant for the road was being misappropriated, or some fake ministry who doesn't need this money is getting such monies. We do not have proper hospital, or our hospitals are not equipped. The money for such has been misappropriated, has gone somewhere else. So there are consequences. And these consequences do not even bear on the government officials. These consequences bear directly on the Nigerian, the average Nigerian. And not to think that it's just those that are in Nigeria. Those of us here are also suffering from this. Like I mentioned to you, I know several people who are applying for jobs today that have hidden the fact, anything that is related to them being Nigerian, they've removed it from their CVs. Because once anybody sees Nigeria, no, we don't want this, there must be an issue somewhere. And we need to cure this. And it's not going to be a one-day effect. It needs to be something that's done strategically over time to bring back reputational damage. It's not something you deal with in a day. So for me, there's a lot more. So this is a problem that presents itself as just one ministry, but it goes further and deeper. And the consequences are broader. Because I have not seen any national, international press that has not given this a bad publicity. And the publicity is not good for Nigeria as a whole.
Absolutely. You know, Anthony, you mentioned something quite instructive, and most people tend to overlook these things, that they're not harmless crimes. They do have consequences, and they do also lots of reputational damage. Having said that, there's a lot of trust deficit between the government and the people. I mean, people are already casting aspersions and doubt as to whether the entire process will be transparent. And even when we're celebrating good news, like the return of the Orire kidnap victims, there's still questions to be asked. That shows you the level of trust. Now, what do you say to Nigerians that have lost faith in the entire process and, you know, that just feel it's a hopeless situation? That what's the point of even talking about this? Why is it important for them not to lose faith and also keep this issue on the front burner and to seek a logical and transparent conclusion to this?
The country doesn't belong to the minority. The country has always belonged to the majority. Unfortunately, because of the power the minority wield, the minority have seen themselves as inferior to the majority. The majority have seen themselves inferior to the minority. The people who are in power, who hold positions of power, be it as the executive, the National Assembly, and the judiciary, the three arms of government, right, are less than 0.1% of the population. And in every instance, they answer to the majority, whether they are elected, appointed, or sometimes inherit power. These powers are derived from the authority of the majority. And the majority owe a responsibility to themselves to continue to ask these questions, to continue to push, to continue to speak up, to continue to, in civil ways, protest if need be. We've seen governments in the world brought down by civil action. And if necessary, Nigerians must consider that as an option. If you do not have any other means, if it seems that, as we are seeing today, our judiciary, people's children are being appointed as judges, these are issues that are live. But we have to keep speaking up about it. We cannot muzzle ourselves. We have to speak up. We need an independent judiciary. We need a National Assembly that is doing its job. Look at the constitution of our Senate today. Governors who have failed in their states have now begun to promote themselves to go to the National Assembly, bearing in mind particularly Kogi State. A governor who is under EFCC prosecution, yes, alleged. We have not seen he's vying to become a senator, to go and prescribe what laws, if not to self-protect themselves. So we need a situation where Nigerians are self-aware of the powers that they have. The Nigerian population, the Nigerian citizen, is the most powerful of all the arms of government, of all that is government. It's the Nigerian population. They are the most powerful. But until they realize their powers, which they can execute or they can enforce rightly in an election by registering to vote and voting. But it now seems that even when they try to carry out this function, it is being mitigated by acts of corruption where the judiciary decides which parties can go to the election, which candidates can emerge. That's been or even INEC in conducting elections begins to thwart the will of the people. So these are things that if we've decided that the mode of governance that we want is democracy, we must then come out to protect that democracy. Where we see that things are being done that are inimical to our democracy, there's a budgeting process. For instance, I don't understand how Nigerians have kept quiet while 3 consecutive budgets are running concurrently. We need to ask these questions. Why is it that in our budget line items, we have items that are not due for ministries? Why on earth is the Almanjeri budget? Why does it have construction of schools in Ogun, construction of roads in Ogun and Ondo State? These are things that you don't have Almanjeri in the South. These are things that are meant to be domiciled in the North. So when you have these anathemas and anomalies, you need to ask questions, and we don't let go of these questions. The problem with Nigerians, and I think the government knows this, is our short attention lifespan. The fact that one matter comes up and before you know it, everybody has forgotten about it. We need to be consistent. We need to keep asking questions. And it is not wrong to hold government accountable. It is not a sin. It is not something, it becomes, you find out that people make it tribal. It's our brother, it's Boali. We cannot ask questions because it's our brother. No, if it's your brother asking questions, because when the thing falls, it falls on everybody.
Okay. I want to say thank you so much, Anthony Elebo, for joining us. We'll continue to follow up. Let's wait and see what press release we put out there by the security agencies. An update as well. And Nigerians are watching. For us here at News Central, we're also watching. A lot has
see how
been
many
said.
more arrests will be done.
A lot has been said.
Obviously, this man is not alone.
It's not. Who are the other people?
But arrests have been made in the past. His father was arrested in lieu of him, and
that friend.
That's not the kind of arrest.
A gentleman of particular concern that went to the house to
just
eat.
How did you know he went to eat, Benga?
Honestly, because whatever happens, regardless of how this matter leans, he did not do it alone. For him to get a line item in the budget, there were certain people who were, nonchalant or who were collaborative or cooperative in this venture, and all of them have questions to answer as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. Very interesting conversation. Whether you like it or not, it's still clear that anybody who carries out such actions, what I expected was one. Let me just mention what I expected in Sena Climes, even though our guests have said it. I expected that since he's a person of particular concern, the federal government ought to have sent security agencies to protect him because he's an asset to the presidency to uncover and unravel what the president may not know. It will also help the president to tick off those who want him to fail or sabotaging him.
His government
exactly. So first things first, the president would say, or the presidency or members of the cabinet would say, protect that man first. Tell him he's secured. We need to get to the end of this. But shockingly, the man was sitting on the floor.
And sad reality check. Well, this is Nigeria and things happen differently.
Very differently.
Yeah.